Hello, saints. At the end of the book of Malachi, we read about the coming Elijah. In chapter 4, verses 5 and 6, we read, "Behold, I am going to send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord. He will restore the hearts of the father to their children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, so that I will not come and smite the land with a curse." In the story of Malachi, this last section deals with the remnants of the followers of God. It begins in verse 16 with the writing of a book of remembrance. This promise of the coming Messiah is couched in the words of Elijah, who will prepare a people, much like Moses prepared a people who came out of Egypt, much like Elijah on Mount Carmel prepared a people to worship true Creator God and not the Baals. We see it again here in the book of Revelation, where it culminates in time and place. And it's interesting because the Elijah that is to be given is not a person, but rather the message. We see it in the first angel's message of chapter 14, verses 6 and 7. In verse 7, it's the last part that reads, "And worship him who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the springs of water." Now this doesn't stand alone. This stands in contrast to what's going on in chapter 13. Chapter 13 is the beast system. This is the sea beast and the land beast that Satan is using to destroy mankind, to hold them in his grasp. And in verse 2 of chapter 13, we read, "And I saw one of the heads as if it's been slain, and his fatal wound was healed, and the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast." The whole world sees this beast system and follows out after it. They think this is the true system, and we're to call them back to true creator worship. We see this here in the last 7 plagues, the bowl plagues. They're chapter 16, where they're poured out without mixture. And as they come out, the people realize they've been deceived, and they refuse to repent. In chapter 16, verse 9, we read, when men are scorched with heat, it says, "They blasphemed the name of God who had the power over these plagues, and they did not repent so as to give him glory." In verse 11, again, "And they blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and they did not repent of their deeds." They realize they've been deceived, and they still refuse to repent and give God the glory. We are calling people back to worship true Creator God, and this is what's happening at the end of time. There are 2 systems vying for attention. True Creator God and his people trying to give the last message of hope, and Satan and his false system trying to lay hold of everything that's supposed to be under God's domain. You and I have a great message to give here at the end of time. This isn't something that's happening back in the Bible times where we say, "Oh, I wish God would act that way today." He is. God is acting right now, today, in his church, with you and me, if you allow him to give this great message to the world. What a privilege it is to prepare for the coming of Christ, to give this last message of hope, of salvation, that God is setting things right and moving in his kingdom to eclipse the kingdom of darkness. Go forth and share a message of blessing, that God is restoring all things. "See, I make all things new," he says. Be a blessing to others as you go. Blessings.